Hello, everyone. Welcome to Purposely Positioned Podcast. I am so excited to have another episode. I'm excited about this episode because we're talking about going from chaos to clarity. And sometimes I realize in life, our family dynamics can be a distraction in our lives where we can't move forward. We feel like we're not positioning in God. So I found the right person to talk about this episode and this topic. And her name is Dollnita Winston. Lady Winston is the founder of and CEO of Family Life Enhancement LLC, which offer family life coaching. Her areas of coaching and expertise is marriage, parenting, co-parenting, women's self-discovery. Donita will help you and your team successfully clarify life goals, identify stressors, strengthen your family connections. She is also an author, a speaker, a consultant, a certified coach, and an entrepreneur. She has served over 1,000 individuals through her coaching program. Most importantly, she is a wife, she's a mother, and she is a woman of God walking in her purpose. So thank you, Dollnita Winston, for joining us on Purposely Positioned Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Datrea. It's my pleasure to be with you this evening. Thank you.
Yes. So we're going to talk about a couple things today.
Mhm.
Like I said, we're going to talk about the family dynamics and how it plays into our faith. So a few questions I have for you today, and we just go and flow in God. So in what ways do you feel like prayer can help people approach conflicts and misunderstandings in their families?
Great, great. So, one way, through prayer, as families encounter conflict, chaos, misunderstandings, arguments, all
Mm-hmm.
of those things that we tend not to want to think about, through prayer. And that prayer puts people, I guess, in a humble space. When
Yes.
those kinds of activities, as negative as they are, when those activities go on in our families, it's just a way for us to stop and to pause and to think about the grace of God
Absolutely.
and how much we need God in those times. And so, having that posture of prayer,
Mm-hmm.
having a humble heart, and being able to quiet ourselves and hear from God, I feel that that would be the most strategic um,
Mm-hmm.
plan to take when those kinds of activities are occurring in our lives, in our
Now
family lives.
sometimes it's hard to get to that quiet space. So how can a person that may be struggling, different juggling different things in their lives like parenthood, like a career,
Mhm.
how can they get to that quiet space? Like what things can they do
Yeah.
to kind of get to that place?
Yeah. So for myself, and this is something I learned several years ago, because even though my kids at that time were older,
Mhm.
I had a pretty stressful job back at that time. And what I found was helpful for me is in the mornings to have my quiet time and
Mhm.
to really use that time of reflection and prayer. I'm an honest believer that there are times when we just have to sit with ourselves and
Absolutely.
sit quietly, allow the Spirit of God to speak to us, allow some of the creative ideas that are kind of pushed back inside of our head to kind of flow to the front,
Yes.
and we can really find our space and our place. And another thought that I have to answer your question is just taking those nice quiet walks. I
Yes.
know how life can be, especially for those women who may be raising children and all of that. And even if you have to take the walk with your children, just
Mhm.
the outside, just the nature, just God's creation is a way to quiet ourselves and to reflect. So, yeah.
Good.
Mhm.
Good. Now, what if a person is struggling with forgiveness? We know that's a hard thing that people may be struggling with just
Yeah.
because it could be generational.
Mhm.
It could be
Mhm.
some trauma there. It could
Right.
be just so many different factors that come into forgiving someone. So, how can a person work through forgiveness as they go through like their faith journey?
Yeah. You know, the scriptures talk about forgiveness,
Mhm.
and you know, God's love is what leads us to be able to reflect on how he has forgiven us through his
Mhm.
son Jesus Christ. And that thought alone can even just kind of propel us into the whole zone of
Yeah.
forgiveness, realizing that we were forgiven. Um, and so when we think about those who offend us, who hurt our feelings, or what have you, we have to kind of think about what we would want extended to us.
Right.
And that same grace and that same forgiveness, that same understanding that we would want, reciprocated to us, or given to us, we have to show to others. Forgiveness, a lot of times, and I know that this sounds very familiar, but forgiveness, that aspect or that action of forgiveness is not necessarily for the other person. It's
Mhm.
for us. It's
It's for
for the
you.
one that's,
Mhm.
forgiving.
Yes.
And that may be a process. It may not just be a one time only situation. It may take some time to continue to reflect, to continue to allow God to heal. And that's one of the awesome characteristics of the Lord. He is able to heal us
Yes, he is.
beyond what other people may do or may not do. Those things that we find that kind of trip us up as we think about it, trauma and what have you. Yeah,
Yes.
when we can really forgive out of our hearts,
Mhm.
the way that, again, if we're talking to believers, if a believer is able to come from his or her heart, that is the first step. Um, yeah.
I agree. And sometimes we just have to acknowledge that that wound is still there.
Mhm.
'Cause sometimes we operate where it's just out of sight, out of mind. So we
Mhm.
think, I'm not worried about it. I'm not plagued by that thing or that
Mhm.
person
Mhm.
because we're not physically seeing that person. But sometimes when you have a trigger and then
Mhm.
you like all these emotions are coming up,
Yeah. Yeah.
and now you're trying to, have to sit with yourself and have some
Mhm.
tough conversations.
Mhm.
And then you realize forgiveness is a part of that. And
Yep.
some people are ready to do that and some people are not. But we pray that whoever's listening to this podcast, in this particular episode, if you have something that you're struggling with, that requires for you to forgive a
Mhm.
person, go ahead and search in your heart and ask God to help you find the words to
Yeah.
say, because if you try to do it on your own, it may not turn out how you think it is going to be. But if you go to God, he will give you the right words to say, the right timing, that person may be able to receive it. And even if they don't,
Right.
your heart is clear.
That's it. And that's what matters because, we don't want anything to keep us from meeting God. We don't want anything to rupture us in such a way in this short life that we live. Let's get
Absolutely.
that straight. In short life, we don't want any hindrances, any offenses that keeps us from the heart of God. And
Mhm.
a lot of times we have prayer requests, we have things that we're asking God to do, but we fail to think about what may be standing in our way. And
Right.
sometimes it's us. We are the ones that are standing in our own way.
Yes.
We're the block. And
Hmm.
so God definitely looks at our heart. He knows the intentions of our heart. And even if we say out of our mouth, oh, okay, it didn't bother me, I forgive that person, God knows. He
Exactly.
knows whether we
Exactly.
mean those words or not. So yeah, it's so important to keep that path clear for sure.
So I totally agree. And he wants us to be honest with ourselves. He wants
Mhm.
us to come to him. He wants to provide that guidance.
Yes.
That's why he created the Bible, to give us a blueprint of
Mhm.
how to work through these personal I
Yeah.
guess dynamics, or things that we're going to be facing in our lives. Um, so, Lady Winston, in regards to, I know you're a specialist when it comes to de-stressing the household.
Mm.
And sometimes in our households, it can be a crazy environment. A
Yes.
lot of things is happening in the home within those four walls. So, what can we do as believers or even non-believers that's on their way
Mhm,
to their faith journeys?
mhm.
What can we do to de-stress our homes and create a spiritual nurturing environment at home?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we talked about the art of forgiveness or the manner of forgiveness. Many times, for married couples,
Mhm.
there are opportunities where things may get a little tense
Yes.
due to responsibilities, financial issues, what have you, parenting issues. And
Yeah.
it's really good, again, for couples to pull away, to have
Mhm.
that quiet time, to have that prayer time together, and to be able to be good communicators. I
Mhm.
pause there because
Yes.
some people have a different philosophy of what a good communicator is. Not
Yes.
keeping things in to where they kind of continue to build like a volcano, but
Mhm.
when things arise, it's best to kind of deal with them right there.
Right.
Even if it's a time where you have to kind of wait for the children to go to sleep or whatever that may look like, but it's good to be able to um, do some kind of conflict management, not let things build and build and build. With
Mhm.
parents and children, I think that it's so important that children know that, that what the expectations are. And a
Yes.
lot of times when, parents are parenting for the first time, let's face it, no one has given us a manual on how to be a good parent. And so, when you bring that little precious baby home from the hospital, no one is saying, here's how you do it.
Right.
And, sometimes I know folks are flying by the seat of their pants, so to speak. But, and that's why I'm in business, right? But
Right.
anyway, but anyway, it's just so important to use our really to be um, thankful that first of all, God has placed us in a family. And don't forget that God designed families. So when we have these perplexities, when we have these challenges, we can go to Him,
Absolutely.
regardless of if it's marriage, if it's parenting, if it's financial difficulties, getting along, relationship challenges, whatever it is, we can go to God in prayer. And
Yeah.
then the Lord has strategically placed professionals um, in this world for us to seek out professional counseling if that is warranted. But yeah, we as a family, God designed family. And
Yes.
so we have such an opportunity to reflect the love of God on
Mhm.
earth through our family. Yeah, I don't want to go on. I know you have other questions,
No,
but
that is so good. Because you really hit on the nail as far as communication,
Mhm,
whether it's with your significant other or your kids,
yes.
to have that open communication, and that can be a hindrance in creating a nurturing environment because we feel like we can't talk, we can't express
Hmm.
how we feel
Hmm.
and we have kind of learned to talk at each other and
Yeah.
not to each other.
Hmm.
So facilitating those conversations are crucial when you're trying to really understand the other person
Yeah.
and being open to receive feedback.
Hmm.
Even if
Hmm.
you even if you think you're right,
Right.
at least being open to have that conversation. I know for me, I only been married for 7 years, but one thing I appreciate about my husband, when we do have those moments where we can sit down and really talk.
Mhm.
I try to be very present in those moments.
Mhm.
Uh, like not have my phone, like I want to be present in the moment so I can truly understand what he's saying, so I can not only hear what he's saying, but even pick up body language. Is he like, how's he feeling? Same thing with my children. Now one is two, so she doesn't
Yeah.
conversation is a little bit different. But with my but with my 15-year-old, having that, conversation with him,
Mhm.
to kind of understand how he feels. So, I do think that it's super important to have communication
Mhm.
in the home,
Yeah.
and be able to create those a safe haven.
Mhm.
A safe
Communication is key. It is key. And a lot of times when people are not able to communicate in their families, you know, days go on, weeks
Mhm.
go on, months go on, years go on, and it's just like layers of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse the expression,
Yeah.
stuff that's piled up. And, and that's where the walls are being built,
Mhm.
and when walls are being built, especially between a couple, it's hard to break.
Mhm.
It's going to take some strategy. It's going to take some time and some understanding and patience for sure, because so much has been left unsaid.
Right.
I
Right.
believe in the power of words.
Mhm.
Um, there's power in words. And when, people choose their words and speak from the heart, there's nothing that cannot be accomplished.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, what if a person is in a home or within a family, and they may have different beliefs and values? How do you navigate that type of conversation and relationship?
Yeah. Um, so if there is a diverse kind of belief or what have you, spiritual understandings or what have you, it, I think love would be the base of that,
Okay.
and respect,
Mm-hmm.
and some patience. Not
Mm-hmm.
everyone may believe the same. I know of some families where it's just that one person that's saved.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else may not be. Everyone else may have, their own thoughts and opinions. Um, However, I believe also in community, and, that support that perhaps that person is looking for may not be at that particular time in the family.
Right.
That's why the Lord has blessed us and died for us and now has placed us
Mm-hmm.
in a church, a
Yes.
group of baptized believers,
Yes.
believing, in common, um, believing in God and all of that. So that would be another resource, that person's church.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the love and the understanding that, yeah, we may have different beliefs, but after all, family is it. You know,
Yes.
so yeah, that's another power word for me, family. Uh,
Family.
at the end of the day, we may have wonderful friends,
Mm-hmm.
support systems or what have you, but family, that's it. What? Yeah, and I do understand that there are some families where things have just gone awry for so long,
Yes.
and the
Yes.
connection and the relationships are not as they would be. And I feel so bad for that, because that's a part of life. However, it's just good to have that support system. And so we
Absolutely.
want to build that support. We don't want to find ways to tear it apart.
Exactly.
And even if a person believes differently than the other folks, that's still, at the end of the day, they're family.
So if a person wanted, so going back to your example, you said that one person is being saved in their family.
Mhm.
What if they are struggling in their faith? And they want to live by example. They
Mhm.
want to show that they're strong in
Yeah,
God,
yeah.
but they may have a struggle or an obstacle that they're facing. So they feel like I can't even vent, I can't even communicate
Mhm.
properly because I don't want it to be like, see, your God doesn't exist, or
Yeah.
he would allow you, you have those naysayers in your and that may come, and those voices may start to drown out your actual faith. So how do a person kind of navigate through that type of situation?
Mhm. Mhm. Reading their word,
Hmm.
continuing to strengthen their relationship with God, and
Hmm.
again, taking advantage of their community.
Okay.
There's nothing, not only is there nothing like family, but there's nothing like church as well.
That's true.
And when we look at a church, we look at a family of families.
Hmm.
One thing that I admire about my pastor, is that when a person, an individual joins our church, he looks at them and even says to them that they are a part of a family. And not
Absolutely.
only does he see them as a new member, but now he's praying for them and praying for their family as well.
Mhm.
And so for that person who may be the only one saved in that household, it's going to be a lot, but it's building. It's
Yeah.
building that person's character. It's
Yeah.
building that person's resilience, and it's also giving that person more opportunity to draw even closer to God.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. And you have a wonderful pastor, by the way.
Thank
A
you.
shout out to Superintendent Barry Winston.
Yes. Tremendous man of God, a heart for God's people, for sure,
Yes.
for sure.
Yes. I wholeheartedly agree. When someone joins our church, my pastor typically says it's not a membership, it's a fellowship.
Mhm.
And understanding we're fellowshipping together, we're growing together. It's not every man for himself. We're doing this together. We're growing in God together.
Mhm, mhm,
So I definitely agree with that. And if anybody that's listening to this podcast, if you do not have a church or a covering,
mhm.
we challenge you to find one that's going to fit you, that's going to fit your needs, that's going to accept you for who you are, and they love you with God's love.
Mhm.
So if you do not have a church home, find a church
Yeah.
home, find that community that's going to be able to support you through the different things that you may face
Mhm.
in your life.
Yes.
All right, so next thing, how do you discern
Mhm.
between the stressors of life? Some that may require action, like us actually doing something,
Mhm.
or is it something where we just have to surrender to God? How do you discern what to do in those situations?
Interestingly, I have a couple of thoughts about this. Interestingly, God made us individuals. We're not robots, we're individuals. And there's some things that we have the ability to just like rethink. God gave us, that ability.
Hmm.
But at the same time, the awesome thing about God is that He cares for us. And the
Absolutely.
Bible says that if we cast all our cares for Him, and He wants us to, because He cares for us, so
Hmm.
we can cast them. To cast, big or small, because what seems minute to us and we feel it's important, we shouldn't think, oh, this is something that God would never even think about,
Right.
helping me with. He cares about every aspect of our lives.
Yes.
With that ability to think on our own, there's some things that can be resolved sometimes by a two-letter word. The answer is no.
Mm.
Sometimes we're stressed because we've said yes too many times. So
Yeah.
we have to discern when to say no, or
Mhm.
not right now, or that's going a little bit beyond what I'm capable of doing now, or what I
Yeah.
feel comfortable with. So
Yeah.
again, every aspect of life, God has us. He
Mhm.
has us. He cares about us. And
Yes.
when I think about that word cast, that means to just toss it. Don't look to see where it landed. We are to cast all of our cares on him because
Yes.
he cares for us.
Yes. Listen, I just went through a season of no. And when I
Mm,
tell you, I was a little bit heartbroken because I am a people pleaser. I like to make
mhm,
sure people are taken care of.
yeah,
But then, on the backside of it, I was struggling
yeah,
because I was trying to do this juggling act and
yeah,
balls was falling here and
yeah.
things was falling out of place. And I'm just like, hold on. Like, I have
Mhm,
to get myself together
mhm,
and learn how to say no.
mhm.
And people will respect your no.
Yeah,
It's setting boundaries for yourself, and that is okay. You have to set boundaries sometimes, because again, people will run you crazy.
most definitely.
And and then you're like, I just feel like I'm just been in a war, and it's just
Mhm,
like you
mhm.
fighting things that you shouldn't even fight because it's not in your wheelhouse to fight them at this time.
Yeah, yeah,
So no is very powerful.
yeah, it is. It really is.
So to wrap us up, Lady Winston, what are some practices and resources that you recommend for the audience that may be listening to this episode on how to de-stress their home, how to bring in their faith with their family? What are some things you think we should do?
Yeah. Um, be intentional about life. I have this little saying, and I've had it for years. We have to be, we have to live intentionally. We have to live on purpose. And with that, we want to live life. We don't want life to live us.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense to
Mm-hmm.
anyone. But it makes sense to me.
Yes.
And being intentional about everything we do, about how we treat ourselves as well as others,
Yes.
um, and really just being, our eyes are wide open to what
Yes.
God has in store for us. This life is not meant to be, where we're stressed out 24/7,
Mm-hmm.
where we don't know what to do. This life is to be lived in moderation, and is
Yes.
to be lived on purpose.
Yes.
Um, because we do have a purpose.
We
And
do.
so, taking one day, I told a client just today, don't worry about what's going to happen. She was kind of concerned about the way of the world these days. And I said, we have to take one day at a time,
Yes.
one day. And when we need help, we have to ask for it, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Everything now is just, so convenient. We don't have to live a stressed out life.
Right.
That's one reason why I wrote this book, because I saw firsthand when I worked in the school system how children were struggling. And a lot of times kids are struggling because things aren't quite right at home,
Mm-hmm.
because it wasn't quite right in their parents' home when they were growing up.
Yes.
And it goes
Yes.
generations backwards,
Yes.
right? And so, in order to see change in our world, in order to see change in our society, in order to see change in our communities, in our churches, there has to start, the place is in the family,
Yes.
in the family. And so, family is important.
It
And when
is.
we take time to think about how blessed we are,
Mm-hmm.
that, God has done so many wonderful things for us. And
Yes.
when we face obstacles, we can, with the right action
Ye-
steps, with the
Yes.
right frame of mind, our mindset, we can get through it. We can.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. Are there any services that you offer virtually or in person for the audience to know? Because I know you say you do the life coaching, so please share your
Yeah.
details of the things that you offer in your organization.
Thank you. Thank you. So I do in-person speaking, of course. I speak to churches, organizations, going out in corporate settings, for professional development, personal development, um, and really being able to stress the importance of, work and life balance, or
Yeah.
work and family life balance. That's a
Yeah.
whole thing. Love speaking about it. Yeah, God has opened up some tremendous doors for me in regards to that. Um, Everything else in regards to my coaching is done online, virtually. I have a women's self discovery coaching program, which I know, without a shadow of a doubt, I've been called to work with women. I mean, that's my heart. I work with men, not a problem, but my heart is for women, right? And
Yeah.
so, the self discovery coaching program is a 12 weeks program where I work with women, especially who have experienced trauma, who are going through separation or divorce, who are really trying to find or reestablish who they are. I feel
Yes.
that a lot of times we as women wear so many different hats. And so
Absolutely.
sometimes, not all, but sometimes we as women sort of lose our identity. We lose our identity, and then it's so hard to kind of reestablish ourselves. So that program is designed for that woman. I do family life coaching in terms of specifically parenting and co-parent coaching. I have an online course that launched this week.
Yeah.
It's called Co-Parent. Well, I have so many things going on. It's called it's called Co-Parenting with a Difficult Ex, the
Mhm.
professional woman's blueprint.
Oh, that's good.
And so that course again now is available. I'm super excited about it. I threw everything into that course but the kitchen sink, I promise. Clothes
Listen, you
clothes
have
and everything.
to.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
heavy
yeah, yeah, yeah.
topic.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm super excited about that. So the parent coaching, co-parent coaching, the online course, yeah, everything is about family for sure.
Listen, listen, she is your person. If you are struggling in your household, come see Dollnita Winston. She got everything for you wrapped up. And not only that, she's going to give you godly counsel. And
Yes.
I think on when you can be educated, you can have all of these degrees and different things, but when you have godly counsel on top
Mhm.
of that,
Yes.
it really do make a difference because there's some things that God will be downloading in her spirit to
Mhm.
tell you, hey, you need to do this right now
Mhm. Mhm.
and do it with a sense of urgency. So thank you, Lady Winston, for just
Thank
being
you.
a woman of God, a woman of purpose. You are helping so many families. I truly believe what you shared today on Purposely Positioned Podcast is going to help even more families
Yeah.
just to get started, to have those conversations, to identify those stressors, to identify those wounds that's not
Mm.
healed yet, where they have to do some forgiveness,
Yeah,
identify the quiet time in their lives, and the courage to say no,
that's it.
saying no to other things and saying yes to yourself, so that you can what be purposely positioned in God. So thank you
You're
for your
welcome.
time tonight.
Mm.
I'm just so excited for what God is doing in your life, and I know you're going to continue to touch more and more and more women and families.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Good to be with you.
Yes. So, everyone, remember, you're not here by chance. You are purposely positioned in God. Be blessed, and I'll see you next week. Bye.